Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a superhero movie review and I'll be having a look at the movie Vampirella today. So this is made in 1996 and is based on a comic book character of the same name. Vampirella was created in 1969 by Forrest J. Ackerman, and the actual origin story of the character is fairly faithful to this film. Now in the comics, her kind of origin has been sort of updated a couple of times and changed, but this actually takes its cues from the original source material. So what we've got here in a sort of distant past, on a sort of alien world, you have basically a race of vampires, and the majority of them have kind of adapted to kind of a peaceful existence, and they have basically rivers that have almost like a kind of blood in running the rivers, and they basically feed off that. There is a kind of group of kind of renegade vampires, and they're led by Vlad, who is played by Roger Daltrey, and they're kind of like cannibals and whatnot, and he gets kind of caught for his crimes and manages to escape and escapes to Earth in a spaceship with footage used from other Roger Corman films, including stuff like Battle Beyond the Stars and things like that. Anyway, so he crash lands on Earth, and in modern times, or 96 when this was made, he's pursued to Earth by Vampirella, who's kind of wants to avenge her father's death, basically. Now, because the vampires at this point, or the evil vampires that are pretty much established on Earth, they then created their own sort of other vampire minions, basically, and they've been there for so long that the kind of the modern vampires, the ones that were sort of originally from humans, almost don't believe that the original vampires, because Vlad comes down with himself and 3 others, this kind of lieutenants. They don't really believe that they're actually from space and things like that. And then Vampirella basically teams up with the kind of a descendant of Van Helsing, who's kind of working with the church to basically hunt down vampires, and basically pursues Robert Daltrey's Vlad into their sort of final confrontation. So this is regarded as one of the most cheesy sort of vampire and superhero films that are available. Now it's kind of, even though the actual origin is fairly accurate to the actual comics, probably the character of Vampirella doesn't look all that much like the character. She's played by, I think the actress is Talisa Soto, sorry. And I mean, Vampirella was always quite a sort of, shall we say, busty heroine, and Talisa Soto is kind of quite slender, and the actual costume is fairly different as well. To be quite honest with you, the costume that they use in this, she looks like a kind of a bit like a stripper. It's kind of this kind of crappy PVC costume. It looks very tacky. I have to say that the whole film looks a lot like a porno. So if you can imagine basically one of those kind of superhero porno films, or the very low budget superhero porno films, but without any of the sort of sex scenes, this is kind of what the actual film is like. The acting is like porno acting, and Roger Daltrey is so hammy as Vlad, and obviously Vlad Dracula. I mean, you know, he's literally, the first time you see him, he's like going through sneer spasms. It's ridiculous. Unfortunately, this film was a massive waste of opportunity for Vampirella, and it's a shame. I think Talisa Soto does what she can with the role. I don't think physically she was, cast right for this role. I mean, you've got plenty of other sort of actresses. Julie Strain, I think, is posed as Vampirella a lot of the times, and she is an actress herself, so it baffles me why she wasn't in this role, if I'm quite honest. But unfortunately, there's not really anything particularly good that I can say about this film. I mean, it's so sort of cheesy and kind of and moronic. It's not really, unless you kind of just want a really sort of cheesy, dumb film with like stupid costumes, over the top acting, and kind of like, a very cliche plot. There's not really anything that I can kind of recommend. It actually very much reminds me as well, I think it's influenced by the sort of Barbarella film, and also the original Superman 1 and 2. because ultimately it's the actual story is similar to that, to be honest. I mean, these are aliens that come down to Earth from outer space, from another planet. They've kind of got superpowers. You've got, you know, the bad guys and his kind of a few minions, plus the sort of the one heroic one. So it does actually remind me of you know, of the Superman 2 especially. I don't think I think Talisa Soto is she's not bad. She takes it relatively seriously, and she you know, her acting isn't too bad. But I just think she was wrongly cast as this role, unfortunately. And then they kind of want to make, if they wanted to make it titillating, then they kind of didn't go far enough in some respect. But they also needed to rein in some of the sort of the over the top sort of campiness and cheatiness this film's got. So I can't really recommend this film, unfortunately, unless you're kind of just a massive Vampirella fan and you're kind of a completionist, or you just want some cheesy action. So this one I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10. Have you seen it? Let me know what you think. Now, interesting, there were quite a few other sort of superhero films around in the sort of mid-90s, and I've reviewed a couple of them on the on this channel, and some of them are actually not even based on comic book characters. They were kind of original ones, but this one is definitely one of the weaker ones, which is surprising when you had this kind of like bit of a B-movie sort of like resurgence of sort of superhero type characters. There you go. So 2 out of 10, unfortunately, for me for this one. Leave me a comment. I look forward to seeing you next time. See you later.